Kia ora everyone. This tutorial is going to go over how to model this Prayer and Meditation Pavillion by Studio Tam associati in Grasshopper. And you might ask why we'd want to do that. It's a way of learning how to use Grasshopper and also gives you some flexibility about when you're designing, how you can tweak and adjust things quickly and easily. So let's get into how we can go about doing that. So it's a good idea to look into your project or the precedent that you're working with and really understand it. So I've done a search here and come up with a number of sites that so Arch Daily is one, which is really good, and we can click on the images and really get a bit of a sense of what this space is looking like and even how it is used. So we can click through those. I would recommend that you do this as well as part of your due diligence and figuring out around the project that you need to model up. So there's a little bit of text there as well. And then some of the other sites. So here, this is really good because it shows you where it is and has some really beautiful images that you can pan through, especially some of the inside as well. So we can start to get a sense of what's happening. Also here it's got some really good drawings, so there's some sort of on a black background, and then these ones which are really useful, and they also have a scale bar down the bottom, so we can get a sense of actually how big this is, and we can start to measure off some parts of it as well. And then there's even a little bit more. You can read more about it being awarded some awards as well. So and then there's also a video by one of the designers which I highly recommend watching. It gives a little bit more insight into the complexity of the project, even though it's very simple, but also the thinking and what they were trying to achieve with the design. And then again there's a whole book on sacred spaces as well, so and this talks about it in depth. So what we're going to do now is come back to this one, not that one, where are we, this one. I've downloaded that file and I've opened it up into Photoshop, and the reason I've done that is so that we can get a bit of an idea of the size of pieces, and we can use this as a way of helping dictate how we're going to lay this out. So to start with, I want to zoom in. So if I double click on the magnifying glass, it goes to 100%, so I can use that as a good starting spot. Here I now want to use the scale bar here to measure other parts. So if I go up to image, analyze, set measurement scale and custom, comes up and it asks us pixel length, and it automatically selects the ruler. If I put caps lock, it forces it into the crosshairs, so I can come down to the scale bar, click and measure across till I get to there. If I hold down shift, it locks it in, and that gives us 426 pixels, and then the units and the logical length. So if I type that into mm for millimeters, I'll just take that off, so mm, and then that will be 4,000, so 4 meters. So I'm just doing it in millimeters, so it gives us a little bit easier to see. So now I can go OK, and if I come over here to the ruler tool, I can come in and start to measure different parts. So I can use this to measure, if I hit caps lock again, I can then start to say measure how wide is that wall if I hold down shift. So I can measure up close, and or maybe if I zoom in it'll be better. So zoom in, then go I for ruler. We can really line that up. And we can see that's 460-ish, maybe 460, 450, because the just slight errors in when we're measuring things. I can also double click on the hand and it will fit everything into the page. So that becomes a good way to start to figure out what's going on and where. So I just want to zoom back into this view. I can also bring out some guides, so I can start to use those to help figure out some points that we want. So here you can see it's freaking out. If I put down control on the Mac, and I'm not sure what the shortcut is on PC, it gives us a little bit more control rather than sort of probably snapping to the middle. So this we can start to use to dictate what we want and how we want to use to help. Whoa, the wrong button. If I push the spacebar, I can use that to go to pan. Just click on the rulers on the side and I can bring some more bits over to help figure out what's going on. So that becomes a useful way to start to unpack and measure and get a sense of actually how big the space is. So I'll just come back and use the ruler again. If you can't find the ruler, it's actually under the eyedropper tool. So there it is there. And then I can measure from there. And because I've got the guides, it sort of locks into those. Just gives me a bit more consistent measuring. And so we can start to see height. So that's 606.4 meters. So it gives us a sense of where we're going in each of those. Now, what the plan is to eventually be able to do is create, using Grasshopper and scripting, this sort of little box or model of the meditation and prayer space, and that then allows us, so here we can change the width, so you can see if we change those in the depth, so it gives us some control of actually what happens if it is a bit deeper, and then same here, the height of the wall, so we can start to play with these and get a sense of what happens if we change it, what happens. Even the wall width, if we make it thinner, you can see it has a different quality about it. And here, make it wider. So we're going to go through and figure out how to do that. I'm just going to come in to here. You can see there's quite a lot of things happening in the top view. But what I've done is we've created this point here, which is at the start, and then we've sort of based everything off of that. So we're going to use this as a way to start marking those. Okay, so we're going to start with a new canvas in Grasshopper and see what we can create. The first thing we want to do is go back to Photoshop, and I've just labeled some points that we're going to use to guide us. So we want to start at 0.1 there. So if we come back to here, we want to construct one of those. If we go vector, there's a little thing up there, construct point. So click and click that down here, and that can be 0.1. Let's just put a little, if we double click up here and tooled, oh, not that, that one. Oh no, I've lost it. Here we go. There, shift that. 0.01, just so we can keep track of what's going on, because it can get a little bit confusing. And then what we want to do is create a plane from that. So if we go up to surface, primitive, and then there's center box. Is that what I wanted? No, not that one. Oh, Control Z, Command Z, there. Plane surface, this one. We can use that box as well, but this just gives us a little bit more control. And if we use that into the plane, so that means it's going to start from that point, and then we want some sliders. So if we just double click and let's do 6,000, because I roughly know that's how big it is, and we want to copy that. So if you click and start to move and then hold down Option or Alt on a PC, and then we can drink those up, and then we've got our first box. So that sort of gives us a bit of a starting point. And let's just name these. So if I double click on that and go X width, so I know what I'm controlling, and then this one can be Y width. So we've got those. So now if we adjust that, so you can see the Y, which is the up, and then we can just come in here and type 6,000, get back. So we've got that, and now we want to extrude that. So let's go extrude, so this one here, the second one, and then we can use that as a base, and then we need a direction. So we want it to go up, which is Z, so unit Z, and then we need a height. So let's figure out what height we actually need to start with. So let's come back down here. We're going to do it from the base, so we're going to add the base in and then right. So we're going to do a full wall height, I think. Let's have a go. So if we go back to eyedropper and then ruler tool, and then caps lock, that's it, not there, caps lock, and we can just measure. Let's do it from there. Click and drag. It doesn't need to be accurate, but we want it close. So 4.6 meters. Come back to here, and if we type in 4,600 millimeters, and then join that up to that, and then that up to that. If we come back to here, we can see we've got this cube. So we've got this sort of first box set up. Yeah, if we select it, we can see that as well, and we've got these other ones behind. Let's just delete those from when I was doing it before. They'll just confuse things. Command delete, so they're all gone. Right, we've got that first box, so let's group all that. It's a good idea to create some groups, so we know. Actually, let's just undo that and call it what it is. So shift there, box 1, and then we can select all that and grow Command G or Control G on a PC, and we might just, let's change the color to there. Okay, so we've got that started. Now what we want to do is figure out the wall width. So how do we get the walls? So if we come back to Photoshop, so what that means is we want to measure some things in here, actually how wide the wall is. So we want to create or figure out how to get to point 2 to create another box. So to do that we need to do a few things. Let's just measure the wall width. So if we turn the guides back on, and we're still in ruler, so click there to there, hold down shift, it's square, so that's 455. Let's just do 450 as a round number. So here we can come in and do wall oh, not wall, we can do 450, and then let's just do wall thickness. Okay, so we know then that that's the wall thickness. We've got, this is the wall height, so let's type that in as well, wall height. So we've sort of got things started to be labelled. So what we want is now create another point. So we can just go construct point, and then we can use this to give us the x and y. So x and y, hopefully. What's going on here? Here we go. So if we come back to this view, we can see that this is going to be 0.2. So check that on here. So 0.2, yep, so we've got that right. So back to Rhino, and then let's, so that we don't forget, let's create that. So there, 0.02. Then we just know what we're creating in that one. And then we've got some foundation. So what we're going to do is sort of create the whole wall, and there's some foundation sort of underneath. So we want to sort of do the floor thickness, let's call it. Floor, oh no, sorry. So we need a slider, so let's call it 600. So, and then let's call that floor thickness as well. Thickness. Whoa, get the spelling right. And then we can give that the height above, so that sort of raises it up. So if we go back to the three views, you can see in this view that it's raised up into that corner. So we've got the second point ready to go and extrude something from. Now we've got the start similar to what we did in the previous box. So we want to make a plane. So we can plane, it doesn't come up, does it? So we can just come up to here, primitive, and then plane surface. So this is going to be a little bit trickier because we need to sort of use some basic maths to figure out what we need to get to the other side. So we can use that as the starting point. Now it's the x and y, because they're all conditional on some things. We need to use some different elements to bring them together. So what we want to do is, we know if we use the width in the y in the x direction, so if we bring that down, that'll draw something, but it's too big. So we need to come back the thickness of the wall, but twice. So we can do that by doing some simple addition to start with. So, or multiplication, sorry, to start with. So if we just do that, so multiplication, so shift and number 8, which is the shortcut for multiplication, or we can go up into here, maths, and then you can see multiplication there as well. So what we want to do is we want to take the wall thickness and times it by 2 because we want it to be inside the wall. So we can do that. So we've got that, but we need to times it by 2. So if we come down, set data item, we can set that to 2, push commit. Then we need to take that and subtract it from the width of the wall. So if we go up to maths again, we can click the subtract, bring that into there. Let's just give us some more room. Zoom in a bit. So we've got the X width, so we're just working in the X at this stage, and then so we can pull that down to there. So that minus the double wall thickness. So we can put that into there. Now we can replace the X and see in the top view we've got that line fitting in the same width. So it just allows us to modify. So if I change the wall thickness, you can see that that automatically aligns with that. So it gives us a way of having a relationship between the wall thickness and this inside cube that we're making. So basically we need to do something similar to get get the Y direction. So we've already multiplied the wall thickness, so we don't need to do that. We just need this other subtraction. So come up here, subtraction, and then we just pull the Y from that one, Y width, down to A, and we subtract that, and then we've got the Y there. So now you can see we've got the base into that shape. And again, now we want to extrude that up, and let's see how we want to do that. So if we do another extrude, so we use that as the base, and then the direction, so we know we've got to extrude it up, so Z there, and we've got to do a similar thing because we're trying to have the foundation in here. So we've got to, if we extrude it up, it's going to pop out the top of this. So actually I think that'll be okay, but just to keep things sort of consistent, let's do another subtraction. So go into here, minus, so we can take the wall height and bring that down into the subtraction, and then the floor thickness, and then we can bring that up into there. So now when we look into this view, squiggle, this view here, we can see it's fitting nicely into that space. So we've got that set up as well. So what we can do, let's maybe just pull these out a bit. Let's use that, and before we group them, let's also create a title. So box 1 inside, so just so we know what's going on, and then we can group all that and maybe make that a color as well, similar to that one, just so we've got some consistency happening. So we've got our first box started, which is great.